how many snaps did they run in the 14 personnel?
That's only for us.
100% of the snaps.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into 14P Fantasy. I am your host, Justin Wright. Today we are talking start or sit for the wide receivers in Week 17. It is championship week. If you're watching, hopefully you're in a third place game, a few titles, a few chances to win some money. I mean, that's the reason we play. I don't got time for free leagues. Nobody does. Nobody should. Before we get into it, though, guys, remember, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter. And then also, we have launched a Patreon page. You can see it down below. Just go to Patreon, look up 14 Personnel, or go ahead and click the link in the video description, the video detail, whatever you want to call it. There, you guys, you are going to get our tiered rookie rankings, our tiered dynasty rankings. I think we're doing 250 players or something like that, tiered positionally as well. You'll also get preseason rankings when redraft season comes back. We'll drop best ball links in there to draft with us. We'll have live mock drafts going on there. You can join and draft with us there. There's going to be a bunch of stuff going on, so go check out 14 Personnel over on Patreon. Again, the link is in the bio. All right, let's get into it. Number one on the list, we have Darnell Mooney. And honestly, Darnell Mooney is a flex play here because of volume. I think Justin Fields should be the starter. He was back at practice this morning. And honestly, I don't really care who the quarterback is because Nick Foles, Andy Dalton, Justin Fields, they all know Darnell Mooney is the number one. Even with Allen Robinson back, potentially, he supposedly lost 10 pounds because of COVID. So there's things going on there. But Mooney's going to be 100%. Is he a low floor option that could sink you? Absolutely. I mean, we've seen it with the Bears offense. They don't pass well. They suck. I mean, I'm a Bears fan. It's terrible. But Mooney did see 9 targets last week with Nick Foles. He's still the focal point of the passing game when they have to pass. And against the Giants, I don't know if that's going to necessarily be a priority, but Darnell Mooney, the volume alone keeps him as a relevant flex play this week. Moving on to Amon-Ra St. Brown versus the Falcons. He is a wide receiver too. There's really no other way to put that. If you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, you are most likely starting him. I mean, over the last month, he is the number 4 wide receiver in all of fantasy football. I mean, that's spectacular. The downside is he's tied to Jared Goff and the Lions. So things can always go sideways. I mean, Jared Goff, we know, can ruin fantasy seasons. Look at Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods last year. Jared Goff's just not very good. The saving grace that does give Amon-Ra St. Brown probably a pretty high floor is he's seeing 11.5 targets a game over the last month. Again, that wide receiver 4 stretch for him. So you have to balance that. I'm not putting him into my top 12 wide receivers. I don't care. There's too many talented guys out there. But Amon-Ra St. Brown is firmly inside of that top 20 wide receiver range and needs to be started unless you are just have an obscene roster and have just kicked the crap out of everybody. Then you can sit him, sure. But most likely you are playing Amon-Ra St. Brown this week. Moving on, we have Christian Kirk versus Dallas. Another guy that without DeAndre Hopkins has been pretty solid. And again, not spectacular, but good. Volume against Dallas. This game should be a shootout style matchup. Expect Christian Kirk to be a top 24 wide receiver. That's what I'm anticipating, at least. He's seen 9 targets per game the last 3 games here. Over 10 points each of the last 3 weeks. He's a high floor, high ceiling type of guy. Maybe read your matchup. If you're projected to win by 20 points, 25 points, whatever, I'm going to play Christian Kirk. He's a very high floor option. And again, the ceiling is there, but I don't know if it's a 25, 30-point ceiling like you could see from an Amon-Ra St. Brown or someone like that. So, balance that. But I do think he falls in as a top 24 wide receiver for Week 17. Jumping to DJ Moore versus New Orleans. DJ Moore versus New Orleans is interesting. DJ Moore himself is extremely talented. That's not a question I don't think anybody has anymore. But what we do know is Cam Newton's terrible. Sam Darnold sucks. I mean, There's no other way to really put that. However, he's still been a very high floor option basically the last 4 or 5 weeks. He's not been under 10 points. And is that what you want from a flex play? Probably not. Where it gets kind of interesting is what DJ Moore does to the Saints. His last 4 games, again, he's played them 4 times in the last 3 seasons, sat out one of the matchups, I think 2 years ago. But in that stretch, he has not been under 15 points. He has 1 game under 20 points and 1 game over 30. So really, 3 out of 4 times, he has absolutely kicked the crap out of Marshawn Lattimore. Marshawn Lattimore is known to give up big plays here and there. Typically a lockdown corner, but DJ Moore, for whatever reason, just absolutely works him. And he's done it with Teddy Bridgewater. He's done it with Kyle Allen. He's done it with Cam Newton. So it's not that these guys are incapable of getting him the ball, or he's done it with incredible quarterback talent. He just is beaten up on the Saints consistently, regardless of who's been back there. Even this year with Sam Darnold, he went for 20 points. So DJ Moore is an interesting flex play, a high floor play, and really with an unknown ceiling. And that's what makes him really difficult to gauge. I will play him over like Darnell Mooney here. I'm even flirting with the option of him over Christian Kirk, although right now Kirk is still ahead for me. Moving on, we have Devonta Smith seen here on ecstasy, maybe. Versus Washington, the matchup is as good as it gets. It's a top 5 matchup over the last month of the season. It's a top 2 matchup on the season. The downside is he has Jalen Hurts throwing him the ball, so inconsistency is expected. But Devonta Smith is talented. The matchup is great. I am going to trust him against Washington. I'm going to roll the dice with Jalen Hurts and say Devonta Smith lands as a top 24 wide receiver. He is the clear-cut best option in the pass game. It's him, at least as a wide receiver, him and Dallas Goedert. Miles Sanders is out, or should be out. Jordan Howard banged up. So Boston Scott is going to lead the run game, him and Kenny Gainwell, but that could lead to throwing a little bit more than they would like. And that's where Devonta Smith becomes interesting. Again, he's a 5 to 7 target kind of guy, but he needs to capitalize. So I think he gets there. I think he gets over the hump this week again against Washington. So fire him up as a top 24 wide receiver. And to close us out, it's Michael Gallup versus Arizona. He was a sit for me last week. I'm going to go back to it this week. I get it's a good matchup, but Dallas spreads the ball around. Michael Gallup is the 4th, 5th option most weeks. Dalton Schultz obviously has, I think, edged ahead of him in terms of a safety blanket. And then you have CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Zeke, Tony Pollard. There's just a lot of mouths to feed. And I don't think Michael Gallup, he's going to probably see 5 to 7 targets, but I'm not really interested in that given, the high volume, the high quality targets tend to go to Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. So Michael Gallup, 10 to 15 points at most, I'd expect. However, I am expecting less than 10 this week with a limited ceiling, a low floor. I just can't trust Michael Gallup in a championship matchup this week. All right, guys, that is all I have for you. Again, check out the Patreon page, please. Go donate, do whatever, sign up for those rankings over there. It would mean a lot. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, both handles above and below there. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
How many snaps did they run in the 14 personnel?
That's only for us.
100% of the snaps.